The first question I have is for Dana. As a female entrepreneur, do you have any role models that you aspire to, and what would you say to other female entrepreneurs who are pursuing a career?
Well, so I don't really think of myself as a female entrepreneur. I just sort of think of myself as an entrepreneur, and I actually didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, fresh out of high school, I was here on Western's campus thinking I was going to be a elementary school teacher. So it's just about not just being in the right place at the right time, but recognizing the opportunity and then not being afraid to go for it. It's scary. I typically call myself the accidental entrepreneur because I really feel like I was just in the right place at the right time, and the opportunities was one that I had confidence that I knew I could do it. So it didn't really feel that scary to me at the time. I think that was just ignorance. I just didn't know any better. But it's really just about I think opportunities sort of knock us upside the head all day, every day. It's just opening your ears and your eyes and being willing to listen.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Brad. Just out of curiosity, at what point in your life were you just like, you know what? Yep, underwear. That's it.
Well, it's kind of a funny story, and I'm going to try to give the 30-second version. I was never in my entire life ever thought textiles or underwear. I was a college football player, tried to, of course, NFL was a goal. That fell through. I started, like anyone else, looking for an opportunity, and fortunately for me, I was made aware of an opportunity at Fruit of the Loom, and really what I feel like I credit myself to where I've gotten today in the organization is basically because I was coachable and teachable. I took that same mentality of hard work, dedication, and learning, and applied that throughout my career. And it wasn't always the best at times, working 12-hour night shifts and things like that. But I think it's through hard work and dedication and really a willingness to learn and sacrifice that you can do anything. I didn't have a textile degree, didn't have a design degree. I was going to teach and coach, and life took me a different way. He definitely closed the curtain on me, didn't there? I said 30 seconds or less, and he held me to 30 seconds, so there you go. But really, it was a surprise, but I think it's an encouragement to everyone. I got some great advice from my father early on that said, get a degree, sky's the limit, do what you can do, be the best you can be, and that's what I've tried to do my entire career.
That's great advice. And my last question is for Adam. You just pass it.
Do you have a job for me? Because I'm fired after that demonstration.
We'll find a place.
As the Bourbon Trail, what would you say to people who are trying to get together because it was a bunch of separate companies who decided to work together to show that sometimes business isn't always cutthroat?
That's actually very tough. I think we've been blessed to have a little bit of history first. I mean, we've been around since 1880, like I said. But I do think if you kind of put something as a higher goal and hold something special like Kentucky Bourbon, I think that kind of helps take care of everything else. And I think it's important to take off your brand hat and your own personal interests and then think of the larger, greater good. And I think all our members are very good at that, because normally they'll be fighting over every inch of that shelf space, but when it comes to bigger issues, everybody's working together.
Zach, do we have any questions from the audience?
We do. We've got a few from the audience. First one's from Lily Robertson, and this one is going to go to you, Dana. It says, what high school or college classes would you suggest a student to take who is wanting to pursue a career as an entrepreneur?
Well, so there are master degrees programs in entrepreneurship. I know several of the colleges and universities here in Kentucky offer them. But the best advice I would give you is just any degree. That's what I used to tell my kids when they were trying to figure out what do they want to do. They didn't know. I mean, that's a pretty daunting task when you're fresh out of high school, you're 17, 18 years old, and you're supposed to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. So very few people actually end up doing what their degree suggests that they should be doing. So I don't want this answer to sound flip, but honestly, I think I would just say, just any degree. It's about the discipline and the dedication to sticking to something, be that education or a business. That's really important.
The next question is for Brad, and it says, if underwear ever changes again, which change do you think will be the first to happen?
It's very, very tough. Again, that kind of leads to the crystal ball looking into the future. It's very difficult to see what's on the horizon, but one of the things that we try to do is we basically try to be very intimate with our consumer in the fact that we understand their needs. And I think that applies across the board in several different scenarios, is that you want to know what the needs are of your consumer. If you can meet those needs, you can definitely stay ahead of the curve, but it also involves a lot of foresight and thinking differently to really try to make sure you have options for your consumer. And it goes back to an earlier speaker that we heard. He says, don't just meet the consumer's need, wow them. Do something that's going to be above and beyond what they're expecting, because just simply meeting their need, it's not enough to continue to have their business.
I'll defer to you for some questions. We do have some asking, are your socks Fruit of the Loom? Because that seems to be a question.
No, my wife gets on me about these socks. These are my creative socks, right? It just reminds me, basically what I wear them for is it just reminds me to think differently. It does shock some people when they do see them, and especially the guys I report to. Get a good look there. Right. But one of the things that I encourage everyone is personal development. It's very big for me, and that it's little keys can remind you. I really enjoyed hearing about entrepreneurship and things like that. I have a passion for that as well, but you have to remind yourself daily that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. So that's kind of the way I remind myself to be creative and think differently to service consumers and their needs.
Okay, well, I was wondering, I guess this would be for all three of you, if there was ever a moment where you thought that you couldn't keep doing what you were doing, and what inspiration pushed you beyond that point to keep going?
Y'all don't want to go first? I don't think so. I think it's more, I think all of us are just, everybody in general is just so busy, and it's coming up with a way to manage the workload. I know right now things are crazy in our office, and that's good. I always think of that as a good thing. As my boss always says, if people aren't talking about bourbon and we're just sitting around, that's not good. So I like to be busy. I think it's more, again, that's where I think school can help too, is getting you the skills to kind of manage the workload, because I think today, I think we're seeing that all the time. Work life and personal life have really bled together. My daughter makes fun of me all the time when I'm on the phone, so I always try to keep that mindful of that. But really, just getting the skills to manage the workload to me is key, and not giving up.
Well, there's been lots of times. It's not that I really want to give up. It's that I'm at a loss, and usually it's because I'm tired, frustrated, maybe angry. There's all kinds of different things that happen to you day in and day out, and so usually it's just a good night's sleep. it's you just need to stop and let it go, and get a good night's sleep, and because things are always better in the morning.
Yeah, I agree with everyone up here. It's one of those things that we've heard a lot about failure and what to do with that. And of course, I think in all our businesses, we have to understand how to accept that failure and learn from it. And to be honest, I consider myself the biggest failure at Fruit of the Loom. And the reason why is because I continue to try to learn and do things that are innovative from that standpoint. But in regards to quitting, I think we'd all probably agree, but literally we quit every day. And guess what? We wake up the next day and we start again. And so I think it's that continued tenacious attitude that gets people to success, because there's never a time that we really quit. We may think that in our head, but like you're saying, a good night's sleep, ready to tackle the next day. It's having that mindset of never giving up, because you made a comment earlier, I remember, about Edison and the light bulb. And thousands of times he tried. It took that one time and he invented something amazing. So never give up, never quit, even though you want to. Start again.
We have one more question from the audience, and it's, can you talk about the distinction between being crazy versus creative in product design, and how can you find a balance?
I guess that one's for me, I guess.
I would assume.
There has to be a balance. It's one thing that we're definitely finding out as we talk about innovative products. There has to be a balance between your head in the clouds and being very creative and doing some of those wacky things that we heard Bill talk about, and a balance between what is realistic. So it's very tough to balance those two, but I think you need a good balance, and so we look for people. I know Bill was saying you hire people that are opposite. You have to find those balances between creative thinkers and process-driven, realistic thinkers as well. So, yes, there's a lot of products out there that are crazy, that maybe don't meet the need specifically, but what you'll find is a lot of the innovation and unique products are not that crazy. It's very simple things that maybe someone didn't think about that makes the biggest difference. So it's not all the time thinking, the analogy, think outside the box. It's really just seeing what the consumer needs and how you can delight them in meeting that need in a very simple way.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for questions. We'll give, if we can get one last round of applause for our session 4 speakers.